It occurs to me that we should probably go through some of the thinkers that are present within the book. Um, so this is not going to be at all inclusive. There's not really a way that you can summarize these dudes in a few minutes. You know what I mean? I'm going to spend time, I'm going to actually deep dive into some of these concepts best I can. You know what I mean? I'm not a philosophy professor. I am acquainted with philosophy. However, the the ideas and some of the core things behind them are going to be useful for the content that we're going to go ahead with in the future. So, on the left here, we have a sheet. This is something that I provided to some of the people that I provided the book to help give them some context because in the actual manuscript, I don't delve into this. There's some footnotes, but if I delve into it, that's another 20, 50 pages of going through a baseline and losing everybody in the process. So we're going to try and do this as much justice as we can within however fucking much time it takes us. So there are three thinkers, possibly four, that really delve into the metaphysical geometry that we are going to deal with in the a shepherd that loses. No. The first is Plato. Everybody knows Socrates. Plato is the reason we know about Socrates, kind of. So, in his philosophy and through the dialogues that they had, which are fantastic, if you ever have time, you should find this book right here. Plato, The Collected Dialogues. Edith Hamilton is fantastic. I ran across her for the first time when I was in my teens. She edited and had an introduction, I believe, to Greek mythology. And it was one of the best reads I've ever had in my life. So absolutely check out Edith Hamilton because she has some great things. But the general gist of Plato is the physical world is an imperfect copy of a deeper, more real world. Everything that we have conceived of in our brain, our mind, our spirit, all those things, they're an imperfect copy of something that is the true thing of that nature. So if you have justice, there is true justice. It's like in Diablo when the angel says, "You cannot judge me, I am justice itself." That kind of a thing. You know what I mean? There's beauty as a form, there's courage, there's honor, there's mercy, perfect mercy, which is the foundation of my religion, Christianity, and pertinent in pretty much every other religion as well. The forms, as we said, they're perfect concepts, of justice, beauty, goodness. We recognize it when somebody does a merciful act. We see it for what it is, an act of mercy. It may not be perfect, it may not be the most perfect, or it might be shallow and pedantic and for show, but it's still an act of mercy on a scale of not really close to it to, you know what I mean? So we recognize these forms intuitively. When we look at something, we can say, that is justice, that is beauty. Like when you meet that one person that just stops you. And you're just like, you are the most beautiful person I have ever seen. Even though everybody has their beauty within them, you know what I mean? But to the beholder and the intuition that guides and is present within you, you recognize it. They're eternal, they don't change. Everything physical participates in multiple of the forms. A Pygmalion statue was beautiful. So beautiful, he himself fell in love with it. It was close to the form of beauty. They give us the experience, uh, like how we judge if it's more or less just, more or less beautiful. And it can be in the eye of the beholder, but everybody recognizes the essence within it. And you might see it differently, but it's still on the spectrum of what can be and what is perfect and non-perfect, imperfect. So, from the paragraph from what I send people that read the book, Plato believed that everything we see in the physical world is just an imperfect copy of something more real behind it. What he called the forms, a form, is the perfect version of the thing. Perfect justice, perfect beauty, perfect goodness. We never see this directly, but we recognize them because our minds are built to respond to them. This book uses Plato's idea to show that every part of human experience has a deeper dimensional structure behind it, and the geometry is a way of mapping those structures. And now, my favorite, Immanuel Kant. He's a man. Fun fact about Kant, right? So, the people that would hang out with him in his town, that he never left, by the way, to my memory, they could tell time based on when he walked by their shop window, because the dude was neurodivergent. A Critique of Pure Reason was a short project to him, which took 10 years. Right. He's amazing. As I said in the other video, I once foolishly exclaimed, I'm going to disprove him, because I hated dealing with him so much. But, as I said before, I didn't disprove him. I expanded him. So, Kant essentially said, we never experience the world as it truly is, which correlates with forms. Everything that we experience about honor has honor in it, but it also has all the other forms of everything else that makes that action or that person or that thing within this existence be what it is. It is a specific point within the reality, differentiated from everything else around it, in a very specific plot point. It might have 67% honor and 32% beauty and so on and so forth and whatever you want to fucking say, right? But we can never experience what that thing truly is in and of itself. Which is why Buber was so frustrating, because you can never get to it. Martin Buber is a ethicist I had to deal with. He always said that seeing the thing in itself is the way to treating something ethically, because it's basically love your neighbor as yourself. You know what I mean? You see the thing for what it is, and you treat it with the respect of the thing that is differentiated within the undifferentiated mess around it, or differentiated within the differentiated mess around it. A specific plot point, the thing in itself, the exact coordinate of what it is. And you'll notice I'm saying coordinates. It's to differentiate one thing from another. 68% honor and blah, 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 which in a three-dimensional plane might, if this was like your origin point, it might like be over here. You know what I mean? Like it's a general framework. Don't think too much about it, but that's the general idea behind what I'm saying. And so we only experience reality as our minds organize it. And that can be to varying degrees. People of less experience, less intelligence, or less less wisdom may experience things differently, where they're over here or over here, at the same time. And neither of them are necessarily better than the other. It's just that they coordinate their data to the different points because one has a structure and one does not, or one has a better structure than the other. So our minds filter and organize every single thing. As I said in the video, I got so frustrated with Kant because I was like, he's just a goddamn filing cabinet. That's all it is. Like, if we have an object of a coffee mug, you have to recognize that this is a coffee mug. This is a coffee mug. That's a coffee mug. That's the coffee mug. That's the coffee mug. There was stuff in there that spilled all over me, but whatever. It's a coffee mug. But you have to, recognize it from every bloody stupid angle that your brain can connect so that you can be like, oh yeah, that's a coffee mug. It's a filing cabinet. You sit there and you think about things, and then you're like, oh yeah, let me put that in filing cabinet A, and actually that's supposed to be filing cabinet G with the other things that I don't give a shit about. Right? So, sorry, I went on a tirade, but Kant pisses me off because Kant is a cunt. Not literally, but he's just really hard to get with. So space, time, cause, effect, meaning, these are all mental frameworks. They're ways of us categorizing and explaining all the stimuli that we are dealing with. You are sitting here wondering why this guy with the awesome smoke signal shirt, I might ask, or add, is talking about some crazy, stupid geometric metaphysics on YouTube that nobody gives a shit about. I just gotta do it because if I don't, I will literally go insane. So yeah, the thing in itself is always inaccessible. We can't actually meet it because the thing in itself is beyond our capabilities to actually receive stimuli from. We can see bits and pieces of it, but that's all by intent as far as I can figure out at this point, if we can even call it that, because I don't know shit. And that's a good thing, by the way. If you know you don't know shit, you're wise. It's just, okay, we'll go on. Basically, in this portion, where Plato provides the metaphysical foundation, reality as a underlying structure, and your geometry, my geometry, maps the architecture of those structures. So there is a plot point within the geometry where there is perfect justice, perfect beauty, and perfect everything that you can fucking think of. It's a 0 to 1 scale, but we'll get into that later. Just know for now that there is actually plot points for these perfect forms that Plato discussed within this metaphysical geometry. And where that takes place with Plato's contributions to mankind's reasoning, we have Kant. He provides the cognitive foundation to the metaphysical geometry. The consciousness organizes experience through structure. So it provides the filing cabinet system for the mind to work within everything else, and for us to be able to categorize and organize and store the data that this weird matter thing inside our heads with electrical impulses gathers throughout the stimulus or stimuli of the world. Third, Simone Weil. She's bloody amazing. I will tell you this right now. If you have never read this, you absolutely should, because it is one of the most fantastic books I have ever read in my entire life. So to give you a backstory on Simone Weil, she was a communist, and don't let that deter you. Everybody's talking about the same fucking thing, right? So what was amazing about her is everybody was like, oh, she's a French communist. Holy smokes, scary. But when she died, there was a bunch of letters that she kept with a Catholic priest. And in those letters, she had some of the most amazing insights that people in the last, 110, 120, 130 years, depending on where you cut off the point, of being like, wow, she actually was kind of onto something. And the father himself even like mourned the fact that she wouldn't become part of the Catholic Church because she thought that institutions of man inevitably corrupted things. And it is actually a beautiful thing. You know, I lean Orthodox. I'm not Catholic, and I understand that Catholics will have a problem with this, and I understand it. I'm not trying to create some kind of war within spirituality, although I'm all for discussions. You know, let me know what you think. But he mourned the fact that she wouldn't become part of the church because she was worried about the injustice within the church. She sought God above everything else. And me, maybe it's I'm a weird Christian, but I find no fault in that. I never understood the we're right and every other Christian sect, let alone every other religion, is wrong. If God is one that seeks out the sheep that is lost, he will speak to everybody. And that's why everybody's talking about the same fucking thing. You know what I mean? So that's my take. Let me know in the comments what you think. But I digress. Waiting for God by Simone Weil. Absolutely wonderful. Check it out. Also, shout out to a couple of my professors. They specialized with Waiting for God. Their names are Professor Stone, Professor Roselle Stone. Wonderful human beings. Check out their work as well because they cover her. But true attention, according to Simone Weil, is a sacred act. So when you form your attention into something, whether it be becoming better reading, learning to read. I was one of those that, because I had ear infections as a young child, I heard things differently when I was formulating my speech. So my stepmom's name, Sue, became Uwe because my fucking ears didn't work. So I actually also had to go through speech therapy. And because I couldn't talk and hear right, I also couldn't read very well because fucking everything sounded weird. One of the best points in my life was having my speech therapist tell me my parents could fucking understand me because actually up until that point I didn't understand that they didn't. It was like, oh, so that's why, after the last 3 years, I would say shit to them, and they would be like, what? Like, wild stories, man. But the attention that I put every day that I spent with that lady going LRS and having her show me how I should move my tongue within my mouth to formulate the proper consonants that I was missing, which were about 4 or 5 in total, every day. And it was not perfect. I went through that for years because of just the bad luck of having ear problems and not hearing things the way everybody else did. And then growing out of it and being like, why is everything different? But the attention that you spend on that, even if it's not perfection immediately, is always something that is gonna pull you closer to the thing that you are seeking. If you spend an hour trying to understand geometry, but you still don't understand geometry, you're still better off because you focused your mind for that amount of time to understand something. And that is why true attention is sacred, because it's like reaching out to the thing in itself that Kant is mentioning. It's like seeing and pulling towards the true form of what you are trying to understand. You are always better off for the attention that you give. And suffering within will pull your consciousness inward. I formulate this a little bit different in the geometry, but she was pretty much spot on with that. And this is the wonderful thing about this. Each one of these people are present within the geometry. Hell, Simone Weil is actually like a law within it. Like you can make a formula to explain some of these thinkers in the metaphysical geometry. Like, get out of here. But healing comes from alignment with something greater than ego. So I formulate this in a different way as well, but according to her, that's going to take a while to explain. So, in short, attention is a spiritual act. Simone Weil believed that the deepest truths of human life come from attention, suffering, and grace. She was a Christian. She taught that paying attention, truly seeing another person or a reality without distortion, is a sacred act. She also believed that suffering pulls us inward, which is going to be important later, and that healing comes from us aligning ourselves with something greater than our own ego. That also is going to come into play later. This book echoes Weil by showing how collapse, suffering, and restoration follow geometric patterns. there is actual geometry and or geometry geometric patterns that come and show themselves, especially in the practical applications of the psychometric tests that I've been developing as a result of the system. And how attention, the router mind, that's my term for it, is the mechanism that keeps us aligned with truth, or rather the origin. So, why am I wasting your time with this? Well, I'm not wasting your time, first off. You're learning something, and that, according to Simone Weil, is not a waste of time, because you have your attention and you were making progress with it. So, you don't need to know philosophy to read this book. I'm going to tell you that right now. You don't need to know the philosophy. I encourage you to study it, but do it at your own risk. Capiche? Because once you hit a certain point, you're not going to look at the world the same as you did before. I once had a professor tell me that they don't know how to have fun anymore because they're a doctorate of philosophy or a doctor in philosophy, or they have their doctorate in philosophy. Fuck, English is weird. I suggest that you take and study like an introduction to philosophy and then ethics. Those are the two things that you need, and they should honestly be taught in high school. I would pay tax dollars for that faux show. But you don't need to know philosophy to read this book. And you don't need to know geometry. You don't need to understand things. It'll help, absolutely, but even myself, I had to like outsource that to somebody else that knew geometry. And also, full disclaimer, like, this is a thing that should be in peer review, but it's very difficult to do it because it's so interdisciplinary. Philosophy people won't want to touch it because it's fucking geometry, number one. And then geometrists don't want to necessarily touch it because, I mean, they can check the math, but they don't give a shit about philosophy. You know what I mean? Like, psychology would be interested in it because it can yield psychometric tests that might actually be able to show something and patterns within people's consciousness over time, whether it be through collapse or distortions or just general orbits within the space of their consciousness. But you don't need to know it. It will make intuitive sense. And I have made some pretty cool graphs as well that should help explain it so that you're not just looking at formulas. Like, we can just look at the thing and be like, yeah, it's like a general idea of this. And then I can also show you how to do the psychometric test if we ever get to it, where you can do it over time and see how your pattern shows, because we're all really just patterns of the stimuli that we take in, our reactions to the stimuli, among a plethora of other factors, like how we organize the reality that we see. But at the end of all these things, these three thinkers are pretty much the basis of this metaphysical geometry. And Nietzsche. Nietzsche's in there too. You can kind of formulate him into this will to power and such. It's kind of like how things move within it, which is very interesting. As I said, all these thinkers fit in the geometry. You can actually formulate and explain them within it. And that's why this is very cool, and this is why I'm showing you it. So, long tirade aside, I hope this is helpful. You will see why as we go through things. And should the book ever become available, it'll definitely become useful because I reference these. multiple times throughout and all that stuff. But like this is to show you the foundation of what this project is working on. Once again, this is Dill Wiggle. I appreciate your time.